Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody is doing great. Gonna do a quick video, not gonna be long, something short that actually has been put on my heart, my mind here. I hope everybody is doing well. It's 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 quite a time, I guess, as we continue to simplify our minds and our hearts with all the craziness that is continuing to go on throughout this entire world. But I have been nudged in my heart to do a video, just a quick one today, on something very simple. For any of those out there that potentially are feeling in a sense of who can you speak to? Who can you talk to? This is the feeling that I've been having now for a while. As God continues to work with each and every one of us that have been truly um, made new and continue to get to know God each and every day, it gets frustrating in your heart sometimes as you wonder and desire to make things known to people. I've had a few experiences of this as of late with some um, individuals that would call themselves Christians that I have run into over the last few weeks, and trying to have all things in common with a lot of these people, and these aren't folks that would potentially, come in and have a relationship or anything like that. It's just having a kind of a one-off and having an opportunity to speak truth for those that are your brothers and sisters. And what I find is unfortunately, a lot of these people that proclaim to believe, they really don't know anything. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't mean to be looking down my nose or thinking that I have anything special, because I don't. I'm just a man that continues to seek God for simplicity and truth. But you try to speak to them, and I feel that those of us that have been given knowledge and understanding of God and Him continuing to work with our hearts and showing us love, he I'm hoping and desiring, and I pray that I am able to help those that are continuing to want to come out of this so-called world. And I do hope that there'll come a time when there'll be those that are truly desiring to know and want guidance from those of us that have truly been called out, that we're able to show them and open up the scriptures as a lot of what Christ had done, and also the disciples, being able to open up the scriptures, and being able to show something that is in written word that would be proof to the eyes of the babes. And what I mean by that is the fact that the Word of God is a living Word, and He has written it on the hearts and minds of those that He has truly called out and loved. And the living Word is everything. The written Word is there for an example, it's there for proof of all things. And in the written Word, or in the book, you can show anybody the without excuse of the creation in it, and everything that in creation proves God, and you can show that in the Bible. But um, it's just sometimes you get a little disheartened, I would say, and I'm sure some of you guys feel the same. It's like, who can you speak to? Even this platform here. I mean, I don't even use this platform anymore hardly at all, unless I feel like I want to put a message out that is put on my heart. But um, this is why I'm taking the time today to speak about this. But I actually seen um, a video from Billy from Future Love, and it was very it was very good. I would say it was very very good in the understanding of love and the more of the deeper spiritual understandings. If you watched it, um, talking about what an actual uh, being born again or being called out truly means, and how it's the rapture of the mind, and how you're actually being born again, and your life that you had before is actually burnt up, and you're truly raptured out of who you once were. Um, and it was a wonderful, wonderful testimony or witness to that. And it really sparked me with some of the readings I have been doing lately about, what does it actually mean? So you're looking at a picture, obviously, that we've all seen before. Maybe you haven't seen this, but you're essentially looking at a coming out of the matrix. And it truly is a matrix. And the I'm in actually the Old Testament again, and I've finished up Exodus. I'm in Numbers, and I went through Genesis, and I wanted to pull out a lot of the deeper understandings of the Spirit, because everything is spirit, nothing is physical. And when you have a spiritual understanding of the Torah, or the first five books, whatever you want to call it, makes no difference. You can start to see that it has been spiritual at the very beginning, like I've said many times, but even more so. And it's actually to do with a coming out of the matrix. And of course, they've done it, they put it in front of your face in the movie, which was pretty astounding, the movie actually, that they released for those that have eyes and ears to actually see what's actually being said. And there's a lot of truth in there in regards to the world you're living in. But one thing that I wanted to talk about today is, how do you know? How do you know somebody has been truly called out? How do you know somebody that proclaims to be a believer, that has truly been born again, or truly getting to know God, or truly has understanding? Well, it God says you know them by their fruit, or you know them their works, but it's a lot to do with the understanding that God has given them, and that they're able to understand. And you'll know right away if the person has been truly called out. And there's lots of many ways to see that, and one of them is the biggest, is that they've completely shut down the world. They have nothing to do with the world. They have, essentially has nothing to do with their past life, family, friends, whoever that's not walking in the same sons of God walk that God the Father Christ has set himself. That is number one. I mean, you do not partake with worldly people in worldly. It doesn't matter, friends, family, anything. You have died to that. That's part of the resurrection, or the being buried with him and then being raptured up or resurrected up with him within the mind. But in Exodus and in Numbers, there's a couple things I want to point out here. Okay, and I'm going to wrap this up, because it's truly remarkable when you understand, and it's easy to understand who's been truly born again and truly called out. And the simplicity of it is that in Exodus and in Numbers, it talks about how God he declared that all the firstborn of the womb were his. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the deep details, but I'm going to say that, the matrix and the womb are essentially the same thing. But the matrix, regardless if it's been a new word or whatever, I really don't care, because it has the same essential meaning. And a matrix basically means an environment or a structure in which something originates or develops, versus, the womb, which is a place that something is generated. And of course, that would be in the woman's womb, right? But he talks about that the literal translation from what we're given, it actually talks about a bursting forth out of water essentially, or bursting forth out of a matrix. Think about what I just said, okay? A bursting forth out of a matrix, or the matrix, as a or they, the can be interchangeable. But what does that mean to you? What does a matrix mean? What does the matrix that you're living in mean? So this is how it's very simple to understand who's been truly called out or has bursted forth out of the matrix, because you would have all things in common with them. And you have to truly be born out of it to understand what it means to burst through this so-called matrix. And the matrix is the world that you live in. But what's interesting is that it's an environment or a structure in which something originates or develops. We are here in this environment for a testing, for a crucible where you're being constantly fine-tuned so that you can continue to be more like the Son of God. And when you burst forth from this environment that you're living in, or this place that you were born into or put into for a testing, you realize that when God truly calls you out, it's a bursting forth out of the matrix, or a bursting forth out of the water. And it's very simple when you understand this, when you look at the Old Testament and look at Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and all these things. But one thing that is you have to understand is that when you look at these characters, I'll say, everything is the same correlation. Everything in the pattern is the same. They all have been called out of something. They all had been pulled out of their original environment. Okay? And one that's incredibly easy to explain is that you have this Moses guy who was born into the land of Egypt, okay? And Egypt, Babylon is the system, it's the environment, right? And he's put in this basket by his mother because they're going to be killed, and he's put into the water, okay? Remember, keep in mind the bursting forth, and Moses' name is meaning what? Pulled out of water. Okay, it's a bursting forth from a matrix, or a bursting forth of the water. The womb, the mother's womb, the baby is surrounded by water, okay? But you have this guy, this character, Moses, and he is put into this ark or basket, whatever you want to call it, right? I have this picture here, okay? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into the deeper understandings of the ark and all this other stuff. But I want to show that, here is a guy that was truly called, right? He was called out, all right? He bursted forth out and out of the womb, or out of the matrix, or out of the water, okay? And of course, in the story, he's put into this basket, okay? And he's put into the reeds of the river, okay? And the river is a representation of the water. And what is the water? Well, a river is a water that is continually moving to and fro. Okay, so now we're getting into a deeper understanding of the mind, okay, of the mind of man, which is to and fro, constantly changing and moving, and it's corrupt, all right? And, and he's put into this what? He's put into the reeds, right? And what are the reeds? Well, the reeds are weeds, okay? And reeds, it actually comes from the root word yam in the Hebrew, which means a roaring sea, okay? So he's pulled from the roaring sea of what? What is it talking about? The mind, the carnal mind, the to and fro, okay? The flesh, the environment of the womb that you were born into, which is the matrix, or the so-called world. Okay, so he's pulled out. And what is a weed? Well, a weed is a plant that is undesirable in a particular situation. So here he is in a basket. He's in the roaring water, roaring sea, and he's surrounded by weeds. Okay, of course, weeds, right? Because it's an undesirable situation that you're in. And who pulls him out or snatches him out? Well, when the character Moses in the story in the Bible, well, of course, he's pulled out by the woman or the daughter of Pharaoh, okay? And then he's raised up as a prince and realizes that the world that he had was so wonderful, right? He was living in a beautiful world. He was like the son of Pharaoh, son of Satan, right? He had everything he ever desired. He was a rich, rich individual. And in fact, I think it tells us in Hebrews that he decided to give up a season of sin to be like his brethren, which is the sons of God, who have nothing to do with this world or Babylon or Egypt. That's how you'll know who your brother is, when he's not worldly, okay? And he has the same understanding and mindset of the mind as you do, okay? He can see through the matrix. Okay, it's not the Sunday goer or the one that pretends to be born again and they're not. It's very simple when God allows you to see this. All of us that have been called have the understanding of this. Okay, they have the truth of what this place actually is. So he's living this life, which is a representation of your life, in the world before you were called, and then he realizes that, you know what, I don't want this anymore. And then he kills that so-called guard, and then he takes off into the wilderness. And of course he meets Moses, he meets God in this burning bush, okay, which I'm not going to get into. It's all to do with the mind. But he kills the guard, and the guard is a representation of what? It's killing off your life, right? It's that last thing that's holding you back, as God is going to be snatching you out, and he's killed his old life, which is the Egyptian life he lived. He killed it off. He died to it. And then he met God. Okay? But, you know, this whole idea of who are we to be speaking to in terms of deeper understandings, I seek this incredibly to be able to speak and to teach the Bible in a way that God has shown me, and a lot of you guys have the same understanding of what the book truly means and what's actually being said, and how it has to do with you, your heart, your mind, and how to overcome it and continue to get to know who God is. As God has pulled you out from the weeds or snatched you out, okay, and has you have bursted forth from the matrix, okay? What a wonderful translation from Exodus when you look at it in the Hebrew. That the language that they give you, they're all details that you can pull out and have a deeper understanding of what's actually being going on. See, you know, as everybody is waiting for this physicality of everything, of the rapture, like the church and all this stuff, those that have been pulled out and have been bursted forth out of the matrix, you have died to your carnal flesh, your old self, and you have been raptured up and out of the water, of the roaring sea, okay? And you have become more of a spiritual being, right? You've become more of a spiritual being where things are more spiritual. Nothing is physical. Nothing that matters in this carnal flesh does not matter, okay? We are to be seeing the other side of this place that we have been born into as an environment of a womb or a matrix for us, as God has continued to and is continuing to those that love him with all their heart, to be fine-tuned and to be put through the crucible and the fire, the lake of fire judgments that continue to happen within your heart and your mind, that you can be overcome and that you can go through Christ once you die or whatever it may be, that you may be like him, which God is not man, but he is spirit and energy. So for those of you out there that are wanting that may feel frustration or disheartening in the heart about who can you speak to, I feel you. I hear you. This is how I feel more now than ever, is that when you try to open things up, to certain people that proclaim to be Christian. They have no idea. They just know the book. They don't, and majority of them, they don't have a clue. And I'm not talking down. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just saying in general, it's very, very sad. But there has to be, as we all know, there has to be a multitude of people that have the knowledge and that God continues to shed on their heart so that it can be used at a point in time. And I pray that it does, that we're able to open up the true understandings of the book that they hold so cherishly. So this is how you know who has been born again. This is how you'll know when you mingle with folks that say that they're like your brethren. Are they? Have they bursted forth from the matrix that they're living in? Do they have truth? Do they have understanding? Do they have spiritual eyes and ears to be able to see what's actually going on in their environment that they call Earth or the world? You'll know in a hurry if these people have been truly called out or not, or if they're just the regular so-called Christian. I hope everybody is doing well, and take care.